Have you ever seen a basketball game turn into a full-blown fight between players and fans? It actually happened, and it changed the NBA forever. One of the league's best players was suspended for the rest of the season. People were shocked. The NBA had never seen anything like it, but this isn't just a story about a fight. It's about mistakes, consequences, and how someone can grow after losing everything. Today we're talking about the most infamous suspension in NBA history. And by the end of this video, you'll see why it's also one of the most inspiring. It was November 2004. The NBA was full of energy, talent, and tough competition. Two of the strongest teams in the league were the Indiana Pacers and the Detroit Pistons. These teams had a big rivalry. They didn't like each other, and every game between them was full of tension. That night, they were playing at the Palace of Auburn Hills in Detroit. The stadium was packed with loud, excited fans. Both teams were fighting hard to win. The Pacers were leading near the end of the game, and things were getting heated. Then, with just a few seconds left, something happened on the court that no one expected. A hard foul led to pushing and shouting. Emotions were high, but no one knew that the real chaos was about to begin. Not on the court, but in the stands. This moment would change the NBA forever. The game was almost over. The Indiana Pacers were winning against the Detroit Pistons. But the tension on the court was still strong. Then, with less than a minute left in the game, Ron Artest of the Pacers fouled Ben Wallace of the Pistons. It was a hard foul, and Wallace didn't like it. He pushed Artest back with force. Players from both teams quickly got involved. There was shoving, yelling, and things looked like they might get out of control. But after a few minutes, it seemed like things were calming down. To stay away from the fight, Ron Artest laid down on the scorer's table, trying to relax and keep cool. But then something unexpected happened. A fan in the crowd threw a drink at Artest. The cup hit him directly. In that moment, everything changed. Artest jumped off the table and ran into the stands to find the person who threw the drink. He ended up attacking the wrong fan. Stephen Jackson, Artest's teammate, followed him and also began throwing punches. Suddenly, a full fight broke out between players and fans. It was complete chaos. People were shouting, pushing, and throwing things. Some fans ran onto the court, and even more fighting happened there. Jermaine O'Neal, another Pacers player, punched a fan who had come onto the court. Security couldn't stop it. The situation was out of control. This wasn't just a fight on the basketball court. This was a fight between players and the crowd. For the first time in NBA history, fans and players were physically attacking each other. The game was stopped, and the players were rushed to the locker room for safety. The crowd threw more objects at them as they left the court. News of the fight spread fast. Videos of the brawl were all over TV. People across the country were shocked. This event became known as the Malice at the Palace. It was one of the darkest moments in NBA history. But the story wasn't over yet. The league had to make a decision. How would they punish the players involved? How could they stop something like this from ever happening again? What came next would change not just the players' careers, but also the future of the entire NBA. After the fight at the Palace of Auburn Hills, the NBA moved quickly. They had never seen anything this serious before. Players fighting fans? Fans running onto the court? It was a disaster for the league's image. NBA Commissioner David Stern had a big decision to make. He wanted to show the world that this kind of behavior would not be allowed in the NBA. So he gave out the harshest punishments in league history. Ron Artest, who ran into the stands and started the fight with fans, was suspended for the rest of the season, a total of 86 games. That was the longest suspension ever given for an on-court incident. Stephen Jackson, who joined Artest in the stands and also threw punches, was suspended for 30 games. Jermaine O'Neal, who punched a fan on the court, got 25 games, which was later reduced to 15. Ben Wallace, who started the fight by pushing Artest, was suspended for 6 games. Other players also got smaller suspensions. In total, 146 games worth of suspensions were handed out. The Indiana Pacers, who had one of the best teams that year, lost their key players and their chance at a championship. But the consequences didn't stop there. The NBA made big changes to its rules and security. First, they increased the number of security guards at every game. Fans were no longer allowed to get so close to players. The league also limited the sale of alcohol during games, since many of the fans involved were drinking. They wanted to make sure something like this never happened again. The media also played a big role. News channels and sports shows played the fight over and over. Some people called the players thugs, and the league worried about its image. This made the NBA take more control over how players acted both on and off the court. For the players, the fallout was personal too. Ron Artest's reputation was damaged for years. People called him out of control and unprofessional. But this would not be the end of his story. Later, he would work hard to change and grow, and even win an NBA championship. But at that time, the fight changed everything. The Malice at the Palace didn't just lead to suspensions. It changed the NBA forever. The rules, the players, the fans, and the way the game is protected today. The Malice at the Palace was one of the worst moments in NBA history. But sometimes, from the worst moments, we can learn the biggest lessons. This fight was not just about anger or violence. It showed how one decision, made in a few seconds, can change a person's life. It also showed that people can change, grow, and come back stronger. Ron Artest made a huge mistake that night. But he didn't give up. In the years that followed, he worked on himself. He spoke openly about his struggles with mental health, something many athletes are afraid to talk about. He changed his name to Meta World Peace to show that he wanted to be a better person. And in 2010, he helped the Los Angeles Lakers win an NBA championship. After the game, he thanked his therapist on live TV. That was a powerful moment. The NBA also learned from this. They made the game safer for players and fans. They improved security, changed rules, and worked hard to protect the sport's image. What started as a dark day ended up pushing the league to grow. Mistakes happen. But it's not the end unless you stop trying. What really matters is how you rise after you fall. Ron Artest, the NBA, and everyone involved learned that lesson. And that's something we can all learn too. In basketball and in life. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we fall, we fail, or we mess up. But that doesn't mean it's over. What matters most is what we do next. Ron Artest lost almost a whole season, his reputation, and his chance at a title. But he didn't quit. He worked on himself, changed his life, and came back stronger. If he can do that, so can you. No matter what challenge you're facing, in school, work, sports, or life, remember this story. Use your pain to grow. Use your failure to learn. Keep moving forward, one step at a time. If this video inspired you, let me know in the comments. Share your own story of getting back up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss more powerful stories like this one. You are stronger than your worst day. Keep going.